I've been a professional luthier for almost 40 years, and I've built a lot of guitars, I've done a lot of repairs. And today I get to be joined by my good friend Brandon Acker. He's got a small channel. Go over and help support him as well. I think he's trying to get to his silver button. So thank you for coming in, Brandon.
Yeah.
So one of the things that takes a lot of time to understand, and you have to do this quite a lot, is what to expect when you get a brand new guitar. And I should point out that this guitar was finished up less than half an hour ago.
Yep.
And have strings put onto it. So I thought that this would be a perfect opportunity to go through with you what to expect when you get a brand new guitar. It's quite a lot. It's kind of like getting a brand new child, and you've got a lot of personality, but you also get to form it. So Brandon, could you please just at least play this so we can understand what a brand new guitar sounds like?
Yeah.
Now that you've heard this is a brand new guitar. There's a number of adjustments that your guitar will actually go through. So if any of these happen, and if you get one from me, feel free to call me, but if these are going on, don't worry about it. It's perfectly normal. First thing is you'll notice that your action may actually pull up just a little bit. And that's because through the making process, you're taking a bar fret and jamming it into a fingerboard. And as you're doing that, you're kind of forcing the wood apart. And as the guitar vibrates and so on and so forth, there's a compression that occurs from the fret and the fingerboard. So they kind of mate together a little bit better.
And I've definitely had some guitars that when I got it, it had the perfect action, and 6 months in, it was way too high.
Yeah, so that's definitely something, especially depending on your neck material, and this is Spanish cedar, so it's definitely going to pull up a little bit more than mahogany. The other thing, I'm sure that you've had this happen. You're playing the guitar, you've had it for a couple weeks now, you're enjoying it, and you pick it up out of the case one day, and what happens? It doesn't make a sound. It sounds dead. Whenever you have a guitar that sounds dead, and you just got it, I feel this call from literally every single person who I've delivered a guitar to. My guitar, it's dead. It makes no sound. What went on? It doesn't resonate the way it wants to. Keep playing it. That's your guitar internalizing the sound. And we were talking about this earlier, right? Whenever we are breaking in a guitar, you just play it through. What do you like to do for breaking in your guitars?
So I've tried several things. I've tried something as simple as just going and just strumming it a lot and trying to get the wood to move and learn how to vibrate in its new shape. I've noticed that can work, but I'm always a little bit afraid that I'm kind of teaching it the wrong thing.
Oh, bad habits.
Bad habits. So sometimes I just play real notes, real chords, and in keys I often use E major, E minor, A major, C major, and I try to get the wood moving. This type of, but also exploring the full tonal spectrum. So it's like different types of resonance, different types of frequencies, chords, and I feel like some combination of that and just really mostly just playing the hell out of it.
Well, I mean, it's a new toy, right? How can you not play a new toy?
You just play, and I noticed that it's almost like the guitar gains new qualities and new directions, and it comes usually for me because I play a lot on it in the first few weeks. A few weeks in, I feel like, oh wow, this thing really opened up. It sounds great now.
I know that there's a number of machines out there that will vibrate the guitar, but I think that a musical instrument playing music rather than vibrating for the sake of vibrating is a far better way to break it in, because And we're teaching these to be musical instruments.
And also in your hands, in the way you're going to play it, and not in foreign ways that have nothing to do with how you play. I don't know, it sounds a little too artificial for me, a little lacking in humanity.
Yeah, whenever I hear a guitar that I know has been buzzed in with, and I think buzz is the appropriate word, I always get that sensation that it's distant. Like it doesn't want to warm to a player. You get the sonic benefit, but the players, at least from my experience in this room, they kind of notice that something is up and they can't quite put their finger on what it is.
Okay.
And they don't necessarily use those words. So
I've never played a new guitar that was opened up that way. I mean, I've never even considered it because you just play and it opens up. So
right.
For me, that's the obvious approach,
Right. And look, I have no problem with those machines. Like if you've got an old guitar, like one of these that has been previously broken in, this is an analogy I know nothing about, but like I understand that if you go running a lot and then you stop running for a while, your brain, and then you start running again, your brain goes, I know I can do this. Muscles, why are you not listening? And I think that that's actually a useful place for re-breaking in a guitar. So I remember your last new guitar that you got. You had that one for about a year. To your recollection, did it ever stop actually breaking in?
Do you mean the last Torres?
Yes.
Good question. Yeah, I feel like that guitar, I kind of played it a lot. It opened up to a certain point, and then it became so familiar with it that maybe it changed, but I saw it so often that maybe it's like when if you have a kid and the kid grows up, maybe I heard it in snapshots. But I guess my impression is always an instrument opens up for maybe like a month, depending on how long you play it.
Okay.
And then I guess my feeling is that kind of all the changes after that are small. But it's possible I'm just hearing it so often that I'm not noticing the changes.
Right. Well, I mean, at that point in time, it's probably your personality and the guitar working
kind of
in perfect synchronization, opposed to you trying to learn the guitar and the guitar trying to learn you. Whenever I hear something like an old Hauser or Taurus or a Simplicio or whatever getting played, they will be broken in because they are old guitars and they've been played a lot. But whenever a new player gets it, it's a little cold and standoffish. If you get a new guitar, and maybe it's not a new guitar off of the bench, but a new guitar to you, that guitar is going to actually have to take some time to learn from you. Now, the other thing is that when you get an old guitar like that, you're going to start to hear wisdom out of it. And you played the Taurus that this one is adjacent to. When you played that, I noticed that there was a sonic difference after you were done playing it than to before. Now, as a player, did you notice anything from the sound of that guitar coming to you?
I think it's hard because that experience is you're also learning how to play that instrument, all the micro adjustments you make and feel and touch and tone, that by the time I'm making a good sound, I think I can't tell if it was me or the instrument or both.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think that, at least for me, when you really just sit back and listen, and I've had the opportunity to not only get this, but in violin making school, I played on a whole lot of Stradivarius and a whole lot of Guarneri del Jesus and Amatis and so on and so forth. And after a while, you develop an ability to sense the instrument back. And to me, a really great old instrument that's been played a lot and played really, really well has almost an inherent wisdom inside of it that allows you to be open to new ways. And because of that, I think that you're right, where it's adjusting to that instrument, so to speak. But because it can do this, you are more willing to explore it. So it will encourage you to be a better and different musician in a good way, hopefully.
Yeah, it steers you because it has its own parameters. You can't just play the exact same way. You have to learn the instrument. It has to, you're kind of learning each other, like a relationship, and then eventually you learn how to make it sing. Every time I pick up an instrument, it takes me, I can play it right away, but it takes me an hour before I really feel like I understand what it can do, and then I can be musical, as musical as I can be on it. Because I have to be pushed into new territories, because okay, what I was doing on that other instrument isn't working here. What can I do to let the fortes of the instrument shine and lean into that, because that's where you get the magical performance out of each instrument, which is unique.
one of the things that you should always do when you get a new guitar is play in the set of strings that came in.
Just get used to the sound. Play
Yeah.
it in a bit with the strings before you're totally out of tune all the time. Just get used to the sound it makes before you rip them off and try something else.
Yes.
I think, you know?
Although you don't want to let your strings get too far gone because you don't want to train your guitar to behave with old strings. So I always recommend changing your strings a little bit sooner on a new guitar than one that's a little bit more played in. Try different brands of strings because every guitar reacts very differently to the string choice of whatever you get. And if you've got a maker who says, my guitars are only for this,
That's nonsense to me.
that's nonsense.
Because that's like the cook saying your favorite food is. It's like, oh, maybe that's the food that you like, but you can't impose your taste on me with my own touch and way of eating. I would go further as well with brands and materials and pitch.
Yep.
So materials, carbon, nylon, nile gut,
Yep. Titanium.
titanium, and even gut. In my case, I like to explore the historical strings. And try everything, and you'll find on some guitars your favorite string sounds terrible.
Yep.
And then on other guitars, the strings that you thought you didn't want to play anymore, it's the best for that instrument. So you have to kind of find its voice where it speaks the best. And then, next most important thing, once you find the material, is the tension. Because if it's too high tension, some instruments sound choked.
Yeah.
It's too much tension. And some instruments, they're built for a lot of tension, and you put on low tension, and they just sound dead. And you put on the high tension, and that's when the instrument really suddenly comes to life. The easiest way to experiment with tension is not necessarily buying 20 packs of strings and trying low, medium, high. Just tune down or up. So when I get a pack of strings and I put it on the instrument like this one, the first thing I'm going to do when I get home is try this at different pitches. Usually going half step lower, whole step lower, maybe a little higher than 440, and see, is there a spot where suddenly something happens?
Yeah, you can go, I think, all the way up to about 446 to 448.
So more than a half step.
Yeah.
466 is about a half step higher.
Yeah, when I stretch a guitar,
You bring it up.
I bring it up a half step.
Yeah.
But that's only to accelerate the stretch out process without all the yanking and string breaking and falsification of your basses. The amount of tension on the strings on the guitar is not going to ruin anything if you tune it up that much.
If you go up too high, obviously you can break a string.
Yeah, the string will give out before the guitar will.
Yeah, but I would say half step higher than normal is, you don't need to go higher than that. And if you have already super high tension carbon strings on, I think, they're already so high tension that you don't want to risk going too high. But low is always safe.
Right, you can always go lower. And some guitars, I used to tune by ear, which was to the sweet spot of the guitar.
Yeah.
And I noticed that I had about a 5-cent difference overall. It wasn't until people started carrying around these little clippy-on-knee tuners and tuning everything to 440, because that's wonderful if you're playing with an orchestra or an ensemble. But at home,
It's not necessary.
it doesn't matter, really.
And for most of history, pitch was relative anyway.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very modern idea that an A has to be at 440 hertz. And an A throughout history could be this A, or this A, or this one, or this one. So it's a minor third spectrum that we know of, that at least in Western Europe, from the Renaissance to the modernity, can be all those things. So
And
you can be as simple as doing this. Those also, did you hear that? Some resonance opened up right there. And so where am I? I'm somewhere in between a half step lower than, and something started to sing.
that was unbelievable.
Did you hear that?
Just
It kind of went, whoa. So let's go back up now. It sounds a bit choked, a bit tight.
And I should mention that these are carbon strings, not a standard nylon. So your mileage may vary, but try it.
Every material is going to have its own sweet spot on each guitar. But what I noticed is that the second I got a bit lower, something went from sounding tight and choked to wah.
Yeah.
And if you go too low, it just kind of sounds dead.
It sounds lazy.
So find your sweet spot on the first string and then tune the rest of it relatively to that. And you can have a whole new sonic area of the guitar that sounds beautiful.
Well, careful. We do want to encourage them to buy new guitars. So we don't want to... I jest. Kind of. But definitely play with the tonality of your guitar in that respect, because it's going to change a lot. And if you really are breaking in a guitar, it's probably not a terrible idea to do that from time to time, to choose different spots so that way it works under different tensions.
Yeah.
So that way it's not necessarily thrown for quite a loop. As far as maintenance of a new guitar, one of the things that I recommend doing, actually with any guitar that you get, what you want to do is take a picture of this area underneath your first string. One of the things that I see happen quite a lot is where somebody says, I never damaged my guitar. And then they come back into the shop 6 months later and for, that 6-month adjustment, and I look at the top and it's starting to look like Willie Nelson's guitar. And I'm like, what about this whole, I don't get into the top? It's like, well, it was once or twice. What? A note? So what I always suggest is take a picture of this, so that way you can potentially bring it to a shop or a luthier to get a golpe or plate installed onto it. Because refinishing it is not a good idea. I mean, this guitar, I can tell you, and Brandon can tell you, because he's got the full video on his channel eventually, because he edits his stuff. The accretion of marks over 6 months is just going to continue at the same amount of rate.
Yeah.
So when you put a plate onto it, and at least the way that I do it, they are acoustically invisible. So that way it keeps your good guitar around much longer. And now waxes, oils, and all that, please throw them away. They do nothing for this. The only thing that you should be using is tap water to clean it. And if it gets really bad, spit on it.
Actually, that is something a luthier once recommended to me on an instrument that it had this like grimy stuff on. I'm like, what is this stuff? And they said, hey, just get a little saliva on a Q-tip, and it took all of it away. Is that actually a thing?
Yeah, absolutely it is. It's because your mouth has enzymes inside of it that can break down biological material.
Okay.
And most of the material on the guitar, as disgusting as it is, so go look at your guitar, get ready to be grossed out.
Especially on the fretboard.
That's you. That's all your own biologicals, and your body, surprisingly enough, is really good at dissolving itself.
It's like the snake eating its tail.
Beyond that, your machines should be pretty well oiled. And as you change your guitar strings, don't ever glue the nut and saddle in. There are levels in hell from Dante that haven't been created yet because he didn't have that problem. But don't ever glue them in. And beyond that, play your guitar.
I would add, maybe just from a player's perspective, it's like when you get a new car, you treasure the instrument is perfect. If you got it from a luthier like Marshall, there's not going to be a mark on it. And there's going to be one day when something happens, a string breaks or something, and you're going to get a tiny little mark in it. It's not the end of the world. You don't have to get a new guitar. You don't have to come to your luthier saying, can you repair this little spot? Or maybe you can, if you really want it. But you don't have to panic, because over the years, it's going to, you have to live with it. It's a real tool that you really play and use, and it's going to have your sweat on it and your finger oils, and it's going to have little tiny marks that hurt when it first happens, but
it makes
normal.
It unique.
Yeah.
It makes it unique and truly yours, because to me, every single mark and scratch on a guitar is the story of a guitar well lived. Especially if I see a lot of playing wear on here, within reason.
Yeah.
As long as it's not like it digging a hole, but a few nicks, bonks, dings, scrapes, whatever, that means that you're playing your guitar and you are loving it and you are playing music with your heart.
And furthermore, a little ding in the finish or a little tiny mark doesn't change the sound at all.
No.
So it's just, as my old boss at a guitar repair shop used to say, when someone would bring something in, can you make my instrument better? And he would just go, that's character.
Yeah. Well, you know this one. My standard line when somebody says, I have a nail mark. I said, okay, great, I can fix it. but you need to do it. You need to play that guitar, put about 500 more on there, and you won't notice that one.
Exactly.
Plus, once you've got the first one out of the way, you got the first one out of the way. Have fun. Damn, who cares? It's a great guitar.
One other thing I would say is just be really careful about humidity. When you first get a new guitar, sometimes it's helpful to ask a luthier what type of humidity are they building in. If it's someone who is really qualified and knows what they're doing, they're going to probably be building in a super well humidified room like Marshall, where it's around 50%.
Around plus or minus 1.
Marshall is like, but you got to ask this type of thing, especially if you're getting an instrument from another country.
Yeah.
You get something that's from a tropical region and you bring it to the Midwest or a winter in somewhere very dry, and you can get a crack instantly. So just make sure you humidify the instrument.
Even our Big Daddy Hauser over here, he builds at 62% relative humidity, and that's where they still build it. So I commonly see guitar Hausers at 50 or under, and the guitars just look dry. And by dry, I mean that the back is sunken in and you feel the frets poking out of the side. By the way, never ever file the edges of your frets.
Right.
Because on a classical guitar, as it expands and contracts with the seasons, this is going to be your major dum-dum indicator to make sure that you are not over-humidifying or under-humidifying.
And when it spells back,
then it's a problem. Right.
Another thing that maybe is worth mentioning is that because wood moves, if you start playing the guitar and everything's good, but then over time you start hearing some buzzing, there's nothing wrong with the way the luthier built the guitar. You can change the setup. You can always add a shim as a temporary solution to the saddle or bridge, or bring it to a guitar repair shop to have a new nut or a new saddle made to fit the way the guitar has moved since, which can change depending on the season sometimes. So don't go blaming your luthier if the instrument changes. That's just the climate you're in, how you're humidifying your home. And then when it arrives, even if the action's too high or too low, if it was sent to you, these things can be changed. You don't have to think, oh, I got a bad guitar or something.
No, exactly. The guitars are so easy to modify in that respect. A new bridge for a violin is a lot of work. A new saddle for a guitar, it's really not. You've seen me do it
in like 10 minutes.
So it's one of those things where it may be you have a different expectation for your guitar, but at the end of the day, it's your guitar. You modify it how you see fit, and you should enjoy it. It's not up to me. I just built the thing. You get to play it.
Yeah.
Or hopefully I built it. Brandon, thanks so much for joining.
Yeah.
Please do check out his channel. Thank you, Brandon. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.